Excellent. Right, well, good morning and welcome everyone to Cabinet Committee Equalities of the 20th of March. John Spanswick, could you mute yourself? Thank you very much. Can I welcome all members and officers to this meeting of the Cabinet Committee of Equalities, which is being held as a hybrid meeting with access via the Council Chamber or from remote locations via Microsoft Teams. This meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as practicable following the meeting. Please could everyone ensure that mobile phones are switched off or on silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I'll ask officers to present a summary of the key points, and for the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch on their cameras at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as the chairperson, at all other times you keep cameras and microphones switched off to help minimise background noise and interference. Whether in the chamber or remote, if any members or officers wish to raise a point or a question, they should put up that hands up icon on the screen and I will come to them in order. Please lower your hands once you finish speaking. The chat button has also been disabled for this meeting. Do not use your microphone until you are invited to do so. Members from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout, and where necessary will mute those not being used. I would ask that officers introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting, and we shall proceed to the agenda business. So, agenda point 1, apologies for absence. I have 2 on record from Councillor Bundell and Councillor Farr. Does anyone else have any apologies to raise? Councillor Gebby?
Thank you very
much. Councillor Gebby's microphone isn't working currently. She scrambles for another mic. We have no, yes, unfortunately a bank of microphones seem to not be working, so cabinet members are now scurrying to a further back row. Oh, apparently none of the microphones are working. Could I ask the committee's indulgence slightly while we try and get this sorted? I think Mike Pittman is on his way to help.
Well, you like it, pen.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, let's try this again then. Councillor Gebby.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just going to give apologies for the leader, who I think may be slightly delayed. We were out on a site visit this morning. As you can see, we've all rushed in. Thanks very much.
Thanks for that, Deputy Leader. We'll note that. So moving on to the second point on the agenda, declarations of interest. Have any members got any declarations to raise? Councillor Peniel Thomas, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll declare a personal interest via my employment through a Welsh housing charity which campaigns on equalities issues, but there's no clash with today's agenda. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Do we have any other points to raise? I'll just raise one for myself then. I also work for a charity which campaigns for equality issues, and that would be a personal interest. Right, moving on to agenda point 3, approval of minutes. You should all have received that in your packs. Does anyone have any comments to raise or questions on the minutes? No? Are we happy to approve them?
I am, Chair. Thank you.
Second?
Second, Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, members. So moving on to agenda item 4, the first report of the day. So a report on raising the profile of the equalities agenda across Bridgend, and I believe Caris Lord is no? Who's taking this report?
Me?
You taking it? Zoe can take the report. Excellent.
That's okay.
Yeah, of course. So we'll go over to Zoe. If you could introduce yourself to the recording, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Zoe Edwards. I'm the Consultation, Engagement and Equalities Manager. So the purpose of the report is to update Cabinet Committee Equalities on the plans to raise the profile of equalities and build an action plan that will shape the Strategic Equalities Plan and the objectives for 2024 to 2028. So for a bit of background, the Equality Act 2010 includes a public sector equality duty, which states that the Council must consider the need to eliminate discrimination, harassment, victimisation, advance equality of opportunity between people with and without protected characteristics, encourage good relations between those who share a protected characteristic and those who do not. So the current situation is that the Council is committed to helping ensure that people of all protected characteristics can participate fully in the community as equal citizens. BCBC's Strategic Equality Plan sets out how equality objectives will be met, making services accessible and responsive to the diverse needs of those who live, work and visit the county borough. So equality is diverse and we need to include people and their representative groups in our planning and decision-making processes to help them unlock their potential. To ensure the public sector equality duty responsibilities are achieved, we must set future equality objectives, review our strategic equality plan, identify how our work and activities may contribute to the meeting the general duty, and assess the likely impact on protected groups of our policies and practices being proposed or reviewed. And in order to achieve these objectives, the aim is to explore ways of raising the profile of equalities across the organisation by reviewing the current strategic equality plan and exploring the opportunity to establish a corporate working group to review the current strategic equality plan, where we could discuss and create relevant objectives to form the new actions for the strategic equality plan 24 to 28. So finally, I would therefore like you to take you to the report recommendation that the committee receives and notes the contents of this report. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Zoe. Just on this, so I asked this report to be brought to the committee, and I would be really welcome to hear from members on their opinion on how we can use this committee particularly more effectively and what we can do to effectively use this committee to drive that agenda, because I think too often we sort of have a lot of reports for noting in this committee, but actually very little discussion or debate. And certainly from my point of view as the chairperson, I would like us to see us move more towards a model where we have expert testimony, where we have members of groups coming in to speak to us and to raise these issues and to raise profiles of equalities issues. So I'd be really welcome to hear from members on any views around that. I see I have one hand at the moment, so if I could go to the Deputy Leader, Councillor Jane Gebby, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm really pleased to see this. I think what we ought to note, though, is this directive only affects public bodies. So if we want to affect change further in the county borough, we would need to use our procurement and our commissioning strategies, and I think that's really important. I also think that following legislation that went through the Senedd last week, I can't remember the bill now, Hannah Blythen's. No. Social partnership. I think that's something else that we would be able to use when we're commissioning provision. I think it's really important that we do so, because that way it's not just us as a public body, it's any of our commission provision, and we're one of the largest employers in the county borough, so I think that's really relevant. Thank you very much, Chair, and I'm happy to second your moving of your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. I appreciate that. And I think that is a point very well made, that we do have an opportunity with the new legislation that's going through the Senedd, and generally the Senedd agenda, which is driving towards trying to find ways to use equalities and build equalities through either the Future Generations Act or various other means. I'll come to the leader next, who's indicated he'd like to make a contribution.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the report and the recommendation and proposal of a corporate working group, and take the opportunity to congratulate Zoe on a new role. Well done. Another successful product of our Grow Your Own system here in Bridgend, so really pleased to see you in the role. The role of our partners is going to be really important in achieving greater equality across the county borough. So I think it would be helpful to at least consider that and whether or not they could have a role in the corporate working group, because we have possibly a primary role actually as the local authority that goes beyond us as an employer and us as a deliverer of services. We have a greater role, don't we? But we can only fully achieve that by working with partners like the Health Board, South Wales Police, Fire and Rescue Service, the Probation Service, to name but a few. And also in terms of the corporate working group, given the scale and impact and the importance of future generations, I think we should consider specifically a seat or a role in that group for schools, and perhaps there could be a head teacher representative or representatives, because we can achieve so much by working in partnership with those schools, and I'm sure they would welcome that opportunity, much as I know our partners would like South Wales Police to be part of this and co-produce that plan together, and then it's how we involve those groups that have, and not all groups that are affected most by the work we do in this field have representative forums, but some of them do. How do we involve them with this work? So we do have some forums, don't we? The Gender Equalities Forum, for example. Like I say, not all the underrepresented and groups that do not get their fair shout in Bridgend have groups, but that doesn't mean that we don't work with the ones that do. And perhaps one of the strands for this working group could be reviewing that and seeing what more work we could do to strengthen the voice, build the voice of some of those groups. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Leader. And I think that's a point well made. I think there's also a question there around how we organise BCCEF, which there are some structural issues in that at the moment, and actually getting partners to attend is proving quite difficult. In fact, we had a meeting that was scheduled for last week, and which was cancelled due to low attendance, which is something we have to rebuild. And I think we do have to look at how we use both this committee, that forum, as well as more widely across the council to sort of rebuild that engagement, because we do have some engagement. I think SWP have tended to engage quite well. I know they've come to us previously to discuss hate crimes and how they're dealing with that. But I think we aren't using those forums as well as we could be. But I know that one of the issues raised in that is that there's a feeling that the council shouldn't run it, which is all very well and good. But if we didn't, it's not clear that there's a partner who would step up to run it. And I think maybe that's somewhere where we have to develop membership and see if we can get to a point where they are willing to step up. I think just to ask a quick question on my side, Zoe, the leader sort of mentions how we engage with other groups and get those pulling together. And I wonder how we're looking at both engaging with the consortia in terms of education with this issue. As the leader points out, I think there is definitely a space for head teachers or similar to be involved. And I wonder if actually the consortia might be a way forward with that, to get a wider overview of how schools are engaging on equalities issues, because with the new curriculum, I think there is a lot of opportunity there, as well as the new LGBT plus action plans come out of Welsh Government. Right, it would be also good to know how we're working with the Health Board in terms of their public service boards and their development of their wellbeing plan, because again, it's something that I think we need to be looking at strategically of like, how do we pull together their wellbeing plan, our corporate plan, our strategic equalities plan, as well as everything else to make sure that we aren't missing a trick to sort of co-produce. So just to ask, what is our current engagement there, and how do you think we can best develop that?
Currently with schools, I think the main objective that we have been looking at has been Welsh language. From an equalities perspective, I think it seems that really the only involvement we're having currently is recording the number of hate crimes in schools and therefore recommending relevant training, etc. But for me, it would definitely be looking at the wider picture. As you've said, the LGBT plus community. We were only speaking this morning with Lois about looking at how we incorporate YPOP into what we currently have on our agenda, and just about pulling the youth in. You know, they are the future. They've got a lot of fresh and good ideas. So, yeah, I think it's definitely about picking up with all of these organisations and supporting partners and just getting together. It needs refreshing, like you said, with the community cohesion group. That was quite disappointing, having to cancel the first meeting just because of low attendance. But for me, that just means, yeah, it does need refreshing, getting some new voices maybe, and yeah, pulling us all together, really.
Great, thank you for that. I can see I've got a number of members' hands up, so could I take Councillor Amanda Williams first, please?
Thanks very much. One of the suggestions I had in a recent, sorry, I can hear an echo there, it's gone now. In a recent Scrutiny 2 meeting, we looked at learning disabilities, and we actually invited in some users who use the learning disability support that we provide. So I wondered, not just looking at partners, could we potentially invite residents in, invite some of these people to speak to us? Because obviously, if we want to know where we need to go, we need to speak to those individuals first, please. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Williams. And actually, that's something I've asked the team about as well, because I think it is really important that we use this forum or similar forums to make sure that we are getting not just charities or groups involved, but equally hearing from individuals. And I know this is something I've asked the team to look at in terms of trans rights specifically, but I think there is definitely a role to be played across the equality spectrum of how we get those voices in and make sure that they are being heard by the council and by our relevant bodies. Next up, Councillor Ross Pennell-Thomas, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm really pleased that the conversation has taken this turn, actually, talking about the strength and the importance of lived experience. It's so important. I don't think we can ever underestimate it. Really pleased that you've mentioned it, the leader, Councillor Williams, as well. All too often, and this isn't a criticism of anybody, but all too often, if you are absolutely drowning in policy and you've been in policy for a long time, we think we have the solutions, but in actual fact, those solutions can readily lie with the people affected by those problems and those issues day in, day out, living them, breathing them. So I'd like to think that we actually move to a default mode in council, whereby in scrutiny or in reshaping policy, and I'm pretty sure we do that on the latter anyway, just as Amanda Williams has said in terms of scrutiny 2, that we actually ask ourselves the question, where can we ensure that lived experience actually features as part of the agenda, so that we hear from people who are experiencing problems and issues, and very often they will have solutions that we can't think of because we are probably not affected by some of those issues that they are. So I'm really pleased to have this conversation and see it sort of progressing in this way. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, this is something we're seeing with the YPOP group, I think particularly, of how young people within the LGBTQ plus community are engaging with us. And I think, because that is a completely different world. I mean, it's a completely different world to what I grew up in as a gay man. And I think it is something that they've really contributed some really interesting stuff already. And I look forward to hearing more from them. But there's definitely more opportunities that we can take to put our residents with lived experience, as the councillor says, first and foremost. So thank you for that, Councillor Thomas. I'll go next to Councillor Maxine Lewis, please.
Thank you, Chair. Zoe just mentioned about youth, and I work with youth quite a lot, and I do think that this is one part that should be involved in any discussions, because, I mean, some of mine are as young as 8, and there's issues there. So if we, anything that's set up, if we could include some sort of, youth involvement, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lewis, and I think that will definitely be a very key part of what we're doing going forward, because I think one of the best things that we can say at the moment about our equalities within Bridgend is that we do have a very active, very engaged group of young people involved with either the Youth Council or YPOP or within our youth centres. And I think that isn't something that's going to change. And actually, I think if we tried to ignore them, they'd probably be a bit too loud for us to ignore. So I think, and that's exactly as it should be. So thank you for that, Councillor Lewis. I can see the Dep's indicated that she wants to come back in.
Thank you very much, Chair. So whilst we've all been talking, I've been writing a load of lists down. So one of the first things, I think you need to get in touch with our trade union colleagues. They do an awful lot of equalities work, and actually they've got good equality groups already set up within the council, just as a structure and wider, because they'll take it across health boards and stuff. So we were talking about co-producing and stuff. You might want to have a conversation with Race Equality Wales, because we do need a race action plan, which I don't think we've currently got at the minute. Next meeting, right? Thank you very much, Chair. I'd also be interested in our menopause, and it doesn't need to be a policy. It actually just needs to be a bit of a guidance note attached to our attendance policy. I'm chair of the RPB, and as chair of the RPB, we co-produce everything that we do. So it doesn't matter whether they're disabilities, they're youngsters. It really doesn't matter. It's all co-produced. In fact, tomorrow night, I'm really lucky because I'm going to see a young person's mental health production. So I'm really privileged to be in that position. But back to Bridgend, our corporate parenting strategy was co-produced with all our care experience young people as well. So I think that's worth noting. We've already got pockets of really, really good work in the authority that we already co-produce with the people that use our services. And I think that's a model we need to continue using, because it is people with lived experience already contributing to that development. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Leader, and I think that's a really good point on the corporate parenting development. I think seeing Steve and the team work on that has been really remarkable, and having, as has been raised by many members, that lived experience, particularly of something that I think often gets forgotten in the world of that fostering and adoption does have a significant impact and can have a significant impact on learning and future development. I think it is key that we do that way, and I think that's how we, as the DEP says, that's how we should be working with all groups within our protected characteristics. So thank you for that. I can reassure the DEP as well that on the forward work agenda we do have the race action plan, I believe, at the next meeting in June, so something to look forward to. On that note, I don't see anyone else with their hands up, and unless any officers want to come back in, I'll move on to the next agenda item, if I may. So we're on to agenda item number 5, which is to take a Youth Council update report from the lovely Lois.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Lois Sutton, and I am one of the Children's Rights and Participation Workers for Bridgend County Borough Council. So the purpose of this report is to update Cabinet Committee Equalities on the work done in recent months by our Youth Council and the Young People of Pride, or our YPOP LGBT Youth Club. So if I can take you to a little bit of background. Bridgend Youth Council consists of youth and deputy youth mayor. This year we have Xander Payne from Archbishop Magrath Catholic High School as our youth mayor and Gwion Williams as our deputy youth mayor. We also have cabinet members and teams of youth councillors. It's set up and run by local young people and is separate from Bridgend County Borough Council and runs as a forum for consultations, debates and raising issues and giving young people a voice in things that matter to them. The main priorities are highlighted by our youth and deputy youth mayors, so they bring 3 priorities each to their terms. Main priorities highlighted this year are sustainability for the future, education of democracy and politics in schools, tackling youth violence through prevention programmes, youth mental health awareness, education to bring an end to racism and injustice, and supporting the LGBTQ plus community and rights. So our current situation is the Youth Council now has 2 sessions a month. One is online and is called a chat and chill. This allows members to log in remotely online to chat to your youth worker and take part in quizzes, games, or just general chat. Another session is a formal face-to-face Youth Council meeting, which happens on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. We meet in Evergreen Hall or the committee rooms, and we organise workshops, training, debates and consultations depending on the needs of the young people. They've worked with a number of staff within Bridgend County Borough Council, as well as outside organisations such as Barod, the Police and Crimes Commissioners team and Cwmtaf Health Board, and many more that I haven't listed. So over the last few months, Youth Council have contributed to the following consultations, which is shaping the new Digital Youth Development Service in Bridgend, Bridgend County Borough Council's Corporate and Wellbeing Plan, and Cwmtaf Health Board's Children and Young People's Charter, which will be launched hopefully in our next session. They've also highlighted national events on social media, things like International Women's Day, Yellow for Youth Mental Health, remembrance events that our young people are always engaged in, and taking part in things like Safeguarding Week online and through face-to-face sessions. Deputy Youth Mayor Gwion has been delivering his trans awareness training to the youth development team and senior management team in Bridgend, and we're so proud that he's been recognised for his service to the community through winning the High Sheriff of Mid Glamorgan's Community Impact Award, which was brilliant, and such a good evening to see all the young people being celebrated for their amazing work. Our YPOP, or Young People of Pride LGBTQ plus Youth Club, has progressed significantly in the last year, starting off as an online group during lockdown with around 4 to 5 members. We're now back face-to-face in Evergreen with over 20 young people aged between 12 and 17 attending every Monday evening. They take part in games, crafts information sessions, and as well as great support from South Wales Police community support officers, hate crime officers, drop-ins from Barod, online cooking sessions, and they've been involved in the LGBTQ History Month activities and rebranding their own logo, as well as Carmassive Surf School securing some free lessons for the summer. So if I can take you now to point 9, please, which is the recommendations. The Cabinet Committee Equalities notes the updates and considers any of the equality matters to report on in the coming year. Many thanks.
Thank you for that, Lois. And I think it would be remiss of me not to initially congratulate our Deputy Mayor for the work that they are doing and delivering, I know, far more widely than just our borough. And I think getting that award and that recognition is really phenomenal. So congratulations to G on that. I think, you know, it's really great to hear the amount of involvement the Youth Council is getting from the borough, and it's really encouraging to hear that they were engaged with, particularly on the corporate plan, which obviously has such a big driving force with what we're trying to achieve in the next few years, and has such an impact on future generations. So it's really good to hear that officers are recognising that unique perspective and that unique ability to engage, and taking that opportunity to listen to our young people who are engaged in that. I think the one question for me there, though, is in terms of the membership of the Youth Council, do we have sort of a representative breakdown of sort of across the borough? Because it is one of those concerns that often you get people who perhaps are closer into the town centre, etc., because it's easier to access the services. Is that something that we're looking at to expanding?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, so at the moment we have around about 10 members in our Youth Council. We are looking as our participation team to be rolling out a recruitment drive throughout the schools in Bridgend. Currently, we do have quite a good representation from all the schools in Bridgend, Pencoed, Bryntig, Brynturion, Archbishop and Maesteg currently, as well as Llangynight Welsh. We are looking as well to set up sort of representative groups, whether they would like that based on sort of Heronsbridge School maybe, or a Welsh language separate group that can feed into sort of like a network then. We're also going to be working with the school councils across the borough so that we can build a sort of network of feeding into higher corporate plans.
Great, thank you for that. I would say that we could send the cabinet in to help recruit them, but they might take one look at us and decide their life in politics isn't for them. But there we are. So it's been a hard paper round, hasn't it? Right, moving on. I'll go to my colleague, Councillor John Spanswick, please.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe I shouldn't say this now, but I was going to suggest maybe there's a better link from cabinet members. I mean, we have Bridgend as youth council, but not every authority has a youth council, and there's some great work being done over the years. But I feel guilty away as a cabinet member for communities and dealing with sustainability and net zero. That's one of the priorities identified in the report that the Youth Mayor and Deputy, as I highlighted, sustainability for the future. So I'm not sure how to do it, but I'd like to link better, perhaps just to discuss all the topics of net zero, carbon reduction, and biodiversity. And they can challenge, question me and really dig deep, because we haven't done enough perhaps of discussion of cabinet members here, but maybe cabinet members from the Youth Council, just to tease out things. And I welcome the opportunity to engage somehow informally the best we can to get the views of the Youth Council on, well, all topics, but anything within the Communities Directorate, whether that's waste, sustainability, green agenda, net zero, and all that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Spanswick. I think definitely we should look at, because it's something I'm very conscious we haven't done, is have a full cabinet meeting with at least the Youth Mayor and the Deputy Youth Mayor, if not more widely with the council. I know the leader and the Dep and myself attended a session a few weeks ago, which was great, but I think it would be even better perhaps if we had not a proper formal meeting, but a bit more formal, where we could all sit in here, and because I think it is important as well. I am conscious that the Youth Council used to meet in chambers, and they currently don't, sometimes due to scheduling, sometimes for other reasons. But I think, the sooner we can get them back in the chamber, because I think it is really important. I'd like to see Xander sitting in this chair, because then he'd realise how uncomfortable this chair is. And two, because I think it is really important that we do have that opportunity for them to come and question us and to be more involved with what we're doing. Because as Councillor Spanswick says, with sustainability being so high up their agenda, we do need to be taking that into account. And I think, I imagine, it's entirely possible, John, they'll find a solution to the waste contract that we haven't even thought of yet. So let's try and get that scheduling. So I think that would be a really great opportunity. So thank you for that, John. I don't know if you wanted to come back on that, Lois, to...
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. We're always really thankful for the support that we get from our councillors and staff in BCBC, who are quite closely linked with the Youth Council and what they do. We're always trying to get some guest speakers in, workshops or consultations provided so the young people are involved in something during the time if they haven't brought a debate that they'd like to sort of carry out during the session. So yeah, we're always happy to have you guys in to speak.
Thank you for that. So I'll go to my next raised hand. So that's to Councillor Della Hughes. Councillor Hughes, please.
Morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
That's okay. I'm not very good here. Thanks for the report, Lois, and it's fantastic to hear all the work that the Youth Council are involved with. Councillor Good really pinched my questions. I was just going to ask about numbers, really, and if there was representation for the whole of the county borough, and also what I could do as the local councillor, a local councillor in the Ogmore Valley, in maybe promoting the Youth Council amongst young people in the Valley, as I don't think there is somebody from the Ogmore Valley on the Youth Council. And also, I suppose my question is, how are we trying to engage young people who may not, attend the local comprehensive school and be involved in the youth at the school council? Just how can we get any young person in our community to be aware and to know there's that opportunity there for them to be involved, really? And if I could help with that in any way at all, I certainly would. And again, I know they're doing great things, but for me, local councillor, and there's some plans in the community that we'll be getting people involved in is, you know, for me to link in with that, the local youth councillor, for them to be involved on the local community issues as well, as they are obviously as important as the big things. But just if I can do anything at all to help, I would love to, and I would love to come along to meet the current youth councillors as well and have a chat and see them face to face. But fantastic report, and it's lovely to see all the work you're doing. It's really good. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hughes. Lois, do you want to come back on that?
Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. We would love any local councillors who would like to link in with the Youth Council. If you, I can make sure that maybe Zoe can share my email address at the end, and if you just pop me an email, we can organise for you to come in and speak to the Youth Council, or just come in and observe a Youth Council meeting. That's absolutely fine. With regards to promotion of the Youth Council and consultations and things that you know, you need to elevate youth voice in Bridgend, it's not only the school councils that we're focused on, we also go into the statutory and the third sector youth clubs. We have a good link with our Youth Matters network, which consists of places like Noddfa in Caira, KPC in Pyle, Steer, and a lot of third sector youth organisations. We've also got really good links with the home education team and the vulnerable pupils team in Bridgend. So we try and promote any consultations or any youth voice events, any youth council events to the wider community. We also have 2 new digital youth workers who are going to be working on developing sort of a youth-based way that young people, wherever they are across the borough, can get involved in any consultations and youth voice events then. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Lois. I think the thing that I would know is often one of the challenges, I guess, is thinking how can we get the youth council involved while also realising that they're in school, when a lot of the stuff that I would be like, oh, we should invite them to that, is going on. And I think, but maybe as the evenings are getting lighter and we're moving into the nicer part of the year with hopefully a bit better weather, perhaps something we can be looking at doing, because there's some wonderful work being done in the Ogmore Valley through Come Taff Nature Network and others, as well as through voluntary groups such as Keep Nantamol Tidy and Pride in the Ogmore Valley. And it would be great to see the Youth Council coming up and joining in that. And I know Councillor Hughes would be really keen on seeing them join that. Councillor Hughes' mum actually runs the Keep Nantamol Tidy group, so I'm sure she would have lots of tips and engagement with the young people. So if that is something we can look into as sort of springs, that would be excellent. So great. Thank you for that, Councillor Hughes. Next hand up, I see the Deputy Leader has indicated she'd like to join in.
Thank you very much, Chair. So there's a couple of things. I'm going to propose that we have a special cabinet just for our Youth Council. I've been looking at the Forward Work programme, and there's various topics on there that I think we could put in simple language, because that's something we always ask for, that we could actually be scrutinised on with them. So that's my proposal, and I would suggest three topics from our Forward Work programme. The other thing is, thank you very much to Councillor Spanswick, because Mynydd Cymvig Primary School have asked that we get involved in a recycling project, particularly the school council, and we actually had a letter received from them about why schools aren't recycling in a specific manner. So thank you very much for offering, Councillor Spanswick. I'm going to take you up on that one, and I am declaring a personal interest at this minute because I am the chair there. So, but thank you very much for your work. It's always exciting to catch up with the Youth Council, and I was delighted for G because I was very fortunate to be there on the night. And can I also just reference in our Equalities Committee, please? G wasn't the only award winner that night. Our young carers were, and I think that's another group that we quite often forget, and they're very self-organised. So I think that's something else that we need to pay credit to. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you for that, Deb. I completely agree with that, and my congratulations as well to the youth care, young carers in the borough, because they do some amazing work at such a young age that they definitely need to be present when we're and top of mind when we're thinking about how we deal with policy and changes to policy going forward. I see the leader has indicated he'd like to come in.
Thanks, Chair. And I think I've made this offer before, and I repeat the offer. I'm happy for any of my cabinet members to be summoned to the Youth Council at any point. And just on that, I think we can't assume that the Youth Council will be interested in some topics and not in others. So one of the ways that I would like to try and systemize the opportunities is perhaps we could ensure that our cabinet forward work programme, full council's forward work programme, and scrutiny's forward work programme is shared with the Youth Council via you. And if the Youth Council have an interest in any of those meetings and topics, then it's the Youth Council choice then about whether or not they discuss or contribute or input into it, and we can arrange then for that engagement to take place in an appropriate way, whether that's face-to-face, whether it's with cabinet members, whether it's with officers, but it's for the Youth Council to make that call then. So I would suggest that as a straightforward way of making sure that we don't miss any topics that the Youth Council would really want to get involved with. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for that, Leader. And I think to the depths point there as well, though, it is also important that we, when we are preparing the forward work program, put reports in plain English, plain language, so that it is easier to understand. I mean, God knows I look at some of the reports and I have no idea what they're about. So I can only imagine what that's like if you don't spend every day reading council agenda papers. But that is a very good point. And I think to expand on that point more, I think we should also be considering how best to engage them in the sort of key points during the council year where it is really important we have their engagement, such as the budget, of where, you know, it can look very scary and very confusing, and that's just for us as councillors. But it is actually extremely important, and I think it'd be very valuable to have their input on how we spend the money in the borough going forward, because it is going to have such a tremendous impact on the borough that they see when they start going to work, when they finish school, and even today. You know, the decisions being made around school transport, around recycling, about sustainability, about active travel, about so much stuff that was part of the budget discussions that they should have and I'm sure do have a view on. So I think that's a really good suggestion from the leader, and I hope we can take that forward. I don't see we have any more hands raised, so we've had a mover and a seconder, so I will move on to the next report, if I may, which is the final report today, which is item number 6, which is the Forward Work Programme 2023-2024. Who is taking us through this? Zoe.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet Committee Equalities approval for a forward work programme for 2023-24. So the background is that the remit of the Cabinet Committee Equalities is wide-ranging across the authority. An annual forward work programme allows the committee to consider the key national and local equality issues alongside its regular business items. So the forward work programme is outlined annually in March, setting out a proposal for the committee's key equality issues to be considered within the next financial year. You will see enclosed the report as Appendix 1, the full forward work programme, but just to take you through what the proposal will be based on. The equalities related updates, which we did touch upon earlier, so the All Wales Race Equality Action Plan update report, the annual report on equality in the workforce, the Strategic Equality Plan annual report, along with the action plan update, the Equality Impact Assessment annual review report, the Community Cohesion annual report, update of equalities work within schools, annual report on the work of Bridgend Community Cohesion and Equality Forum, violence against women, domestic abuse and sexual violence update report, and male victims of domestic violence and perpetrator programme update report. And then we've got the Welsh language related updates, so the Welsh language standards annual report, the annual update on progress made with meeting the objectives within the Welsh language standards from the 5-year strategy. So finally, I would therefore like to take the report and recommend that the Cabinet Committee Equalities approves the proposed forward work programme and considers any other equality matters to report on in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, and I'd happily move the report. I think, you know, what I've asked for from officers on this is that we do try and expand this forward work programme where possible, because I think, as we've discussed in the meeting earlier, while this hits our sort of statutory requirements of getting the updates on the legislation that we are required to do, such as Welsh language, etc., I think it is important as well that we recognise our wider remit as a committee and we start reflecting that in our forward work programme. So I have asked officers to look at, first of all, a review or a report into trans lives within the borough and what we are doing to support individuals from that community, as well as others. And I'd be very welcome to members of this committee to speaking to officers or to myself about any suggestions they have for where we can have extra value as a committee, to have those evidence sessions, to have those opportunities to hear from groups covered by the equalities legislation and make sure that we aren't missing a trick simply by not having had that conversation. So I'm really pleased to see this forward work programme, but I also look forward to seeing it expanded going forward, which I think will be really, really good. And as well, I'm also really intrigued to see how we can work better with colleagues within the HR department, etc., to make sure that our workforce within the county borough, as the widest employer, are reflecting the faces that we see across our population, as well as making sure that people who come to work for the borough feel welcome and included and have that opportunity to be respected across the workforce, regardless of who they are or their background. And I know that we are in discussions with the team on whether we establish or how we can look to establish working groups for individuals within the borough, and that is something that I know is getting some interest. I believe the group that had the highest interest, to the Deputy Leader's point earlier, is around the menopause, which is something we absolutely should be looking at as a group that can support individuals who are experiencing difficulty due to the menopause, and having that support there for those individuals. And I think that is really important, and I look forward to seeing that happening going forward. So can I have a seconder to a report, please?
Happy to, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. So that's moved. So that is the last report on my agenda. Final agenda item is agenda number 7, which is urgent items. I haven't received any indication of an urgent item, so therefore I will bring the committee to a close and thank all officers and members for attending. Thank you.